Does the Bible promote slavery? The simple answer is no, but let's dig into it. So the first thing people want to point out is, well, there's slavery in the Bible, so it promotes slavery. Well, yes, there is slavery recorded in the Bible. That doesn't mean it promotes it. There is adultery and murder and all types of evil recorded in the Bible. That does not mean it promotes those things. People will mention slaves obey your masters, which comes from Colossians chapter 3, verse 22. So let's look at the context of this verse, which is always very important to look at context. And that is, Paul is basically trying to say, guys, we're not doing an armed revolt. We're not going to, take up arms against this government system. Instead, we are going to work through this system and try and by our actions and by our character, point our masters to Jesus Christ. I mean, just look at the next chapter, chapter 4, verse 1. Masters, provide your slaves with what is right and fair, because you know that you also have a master in heaven. So he's saying, watch out, guys. Treat these people like brothers and sisters in Christ. Do not treat them like they are lesser than thou. It is important to point out that slaves at the time of the Roman Empire were not all like slaves in America. Yes, there were slaves due to the taking over of land and stuff like that, and forceful slaves, but there are also a lot of indentured slaves, which basically meant I owed you money and I couldn't pay my debt, so now I became your slave. But then look at the rest of the Bible. The second greatest miracle of the Old Testament is the mass exodus, the mass freeing of slaves. But then let's look at the book of Philemon, where Onesimus, a slave, had run from Philemon, his master, to Rome, where he is met by Paul. Now Paul meets Onesimus, and then he sends him back to Philemon. But verse 16, no longer as a slave, but better than a slave, as a dear brother. So yes, there's slavery recorded in the Bible, but it is not promoted. We are all created in the image of God. No one greater or lesser than the other. I hope you learned something from this. I encourage you to read more of the Bible yourself. And God bless.